picked that up here. What's that? Last Thursday or something. He
Oh,
threw
you
one
what?
up.
He made new shirts?
Yeah, I guess I was at his shop. I walked in. I was shirtless because it was so hot that day. And he goes, "Bro, come on, man. You got to wear a shirt." So gave me a new one. So anyway, yeah, it's interesting. I was at, and we'll get to some questions in a little while, but I was actually at Target yesterday. Drove by it, didn't quite go inside because you had to wait in line and yada yada, and I needed two items.
Routine stuff.
Yeah. So we were actually, my daughter and I were out for a fun scooter ride, and we thought, let's go to Target when we're out, but we stopped by and couldn't do it. But the point was to be out, just to get out of the house for a little while. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we went over there, and there's actually at the Target on Brookhurst and Adams and Huntington Beach, they've got 4 charging stations, and in fact, not just 4 charging stations, 3 out of the 4 are high amperage, like the large supercharger style that you would get at a Tesla station. So I haven't charged there yet or seen anybody, and there was nobody in line that I could ask, but it looks like you could charge it to 100 kW over there. So that would probably charge your car in about 30 to 40 minutes, much like a supercharger. So pretty exciting.
And those are like the top of the line chargers, or is like the best?
They are. Those are going to be, as of right now, those are what do you call it? Those are what we call level 3.
Okay.
The level 3 charging. It's a DC charger. It gives you a much, much, much faster charge in a shorter period of time. Now, as we all know, that's not good for the car. A car should charge at the slower the rate, the better it is for the car. Generally speaking, there becomes a point where it levels out. But that's why I think Tesla Charged in particular, and other brands are following, is that Tesla has limited their charging with a mobile connector to 32 amps, and it used to be 40.1, 40.16 to be exact. Right. And they've limited it now to 32 amps, and they've limited the wall connector from being an 80 amp charge all the way down to a maximum of 48 amp charge. So that got cut down significantly. And the field on our end, we were noticing that a lot of the breakers were melting. The manufacturers couldn't create breakers in residential panels. They're called plug-on breakers. They just push onto the bus bar. Instead of in a commercial or industrial setting, you'll have what's called a bolt-on breaker that actually has screws and mechanically attach to the bus bar, and they can accommodate heavier loads over a longer period of time. But everything is a house, and they all have plug-on breakers. I've yet to see in 30, 40 years of working a bolt-on panel in a house. So anyway, those breakers can't handle the heat, and we had an extraordinary amount of them fail over time. And so it wasn't the installation, it was just the breakers themselves aren't hearty enough to accommodate that much current at the 60, 70, 80 amp range to not melt down over time. So
you were saying that before all this, like you were saying that these chargers are bad, they can't charge pretty fast.
Well, it's not good for your battery, is what it is.
So for example, just like anything else, like the phone, it's not good to have a fast charger for a phone, right?
That's right. I mean, for example, your body, I could probably throw you a 60-pound bag of concrete, like have it thrown at you, right?
Yeah.
And you could probably grab that 60-pound bag pretty quickly, grab it and hold it. But if I do that to you 10 times in a row to equal 360 pounds of concrete, not that you're going to hold 360 pounds, but I would throw you a 60-pound bag, you set it down, 60 pounds, set it down. That's really hard on the body. Whereas if I throw you, say, 10 times those, I'd throw you 20 30-pound bags, you could accommodate that. It wouldn't put as much stress on your body. You could, even though in the end, you're still getting 360 pounds, the stress level to get there and the impact on your body is significantly less.
Makes sense.
In the same way, again, that's just a metaphor, not like the body is a battery, but it just gives an example of it. Yeah, in the same way, you want to charge your battery at a slower rate. Even people that have wall connectors, I recommend to them, if you can, turn the car down. Turn it down to 32. It's much, much better for the battery. So we'll see how that, over time, and people can accommodate that. Even at a 32 amp charge on the Model 3, S and X, you're going to get somewhere around anywhere about 28 to 30 miles per hour. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad.
What about these? I think we talked about this last time, but they're making like new batteries for cars, like a new distributor. I'm not sure.
They are.
Trying to make it faster, wireless.
Did you say wireless?
Yeah.
Yeah, the wireless concept's been out for a while. It's getting a lot of pushback from people and agencies for a myriad of reasons. One is we don't know the impact medically or physically on people, and then also one of the challenges we have is that, and there's now this uprising in 5G. Now I know 5G. How is that related to what we're doing? Here's how it relates: is that 5G in and of itself for cellular networks puts out a significant more amount of EMF, electromagnetic frequency, and some people are very sensitive to it, very. And we need to be aware of that. Now, the arguments for the cellular site size that are pro 5G will say, yeah, but the signal drops off after a certain amount of time. Its pungency is not as significant. It has no human interaction, which is pejorative in nature. It should be fine. Okay, fine. Let's not even argue that. It's not our topic per se. But EMF is also, number one, Tesla itself, the car, the readings you get with what's called a Gauss meter around that's what measures EMF, and in the air. And if you do that around a Tesla, you get a higher reading of EMF. Now, when you introduce all of a sudden this charging, any kind of electronic charger or electronic, wireless charger, either for your phone, for your cars specifically, it creates in and of itself, just by nature of what it is, it creates an enormous amount of EMF. So because we're becoming more aware of this as a culture and what EMF and then its impacts have on people, or some people more than others, we're more sensitive to it. So when we start talking about the possibility of wireless charging for the car, specifically the Tesla, there's going to be a lot of pushback out there because people are becoming more educated on EMF. And some people are greatly and adversely affected by this. It really plays havoc with a lot of people's metals in their body and just how they live and their quality of life. So we'll see
there's
where
a
that
lot
goes.
of things to it, right? It's not just like, oh, it's gonna be great. There's still a lot of things that have to go like through it.
Well, yeah, people will have to, number one, there's only been so many studies that have been put out that we know about 5G or EMF. EMF is, even though we've known about it for some time, it's been on such a low level that our bodies have been able to, I don't want to say fight it off, but this idea that we can somehow live with it, it hasn't played a significant role. But number one, now that education for people is more accessible via the internet. Before, to find out about EMF, you'd have to be subscribed to some kind of scientific journal.
Go to a library or something.
Go to the library. Yeah, people it wasn't an everyday conversation. Well, now you could enter on Google or any other kind of search engine this idea of, damaging effects of EMF, whatever the case is. And you'll wind up down a rabbit hole for the next 36 hours trying to, you've got yourself in a tailspin trying to figure out what EMF is. Is it really going to hurt me? Is it not? But some people really believe it is. And there have been some significant studies out there. I even have customers, I wonder if I've mentioned this before. I've had customers that have had like testicular or prostate cancer as males, and they actually have their pants custom tailored, and they put in anti-EMF linings in their pockets. So when they put their phone in there,
radiation.
the EMF for me, I'll steer away from the term radiation, although I'm not saying you have to, but I will, because that conjures up all kinds of end of the world type stuff, right? But the EMF that's put out by the phone itself, because it does, they think that contributed to the cancer that they had received, and so, or experienced, and so that they're aware of that. There have been studies that have been put out where ladies put their phone in their bra a lot of times, that they literally under an MRI, I believe it was, they literally saw the outlining of the phone on their chest. It had actually done, physical marketable damage or left its mark, if you will, on their chest. So there is some merit to EMF. And I think with wireless charging, you create a greater field, electromagnetic frequency or electromagnetic field that has, potentially damaging effects. So we'll see where that one goes. I don't know. I mean, time will tell.
Exactly.
And much like we're finding out with COVID, right? We were all pro-mask. Now it's masks are damaging. Now it's the potential of, if you're not out getting your body acclimating and being able to fight off and learn new viruses, now all of a sudden we could create other problems. Maybe they're not as great of a scale of a pandemic of COVID-19, but they're still impactful on our daily lives. So we're always learning as humans and how to adapt to these things. So we'll see what happens as well with the wireless charging of these cars. I don't know what the benefit is. Is it really that difficult to unplug a cord out of your car and plug it in? I mean,
just another convenience point, I guess.
I suppose so. I mean,
just drive. Like if you drive into your garage or something, and just have like a wireless charger under, I don't know, the floor, and once it just parks, it starts charging. I don't know. That's like one way I can think about it,
I mean, how many people actually use a wireless charger for their phone?
I used to work at Sprint. A lot of people would get them. They just like the fact that they can just place your phone on that little pod thing.
No, I've got one in my office. I never use it. I have one at the office. The problem is the kind of case I use is called a rock form. And a rock form has a magnet built in the back.
Also, you can't just place it.
It doesn't work.
It won't read it.
Yeah, so we have it for the guys' phones. But again, and we actually we have a Gauss meter. We put the Gauss meter next to it to see what kind of put out. And it does put out a significant more, on the scale than if it wasn't plugged in. So people need to be aware of that. I have clients who actually turn their phones off every night. They actually turn off their Wi-Fi because your Wi-Fi in your home produces a significant amount of EMF. So
crazy. These little things.
Yeah, these things are producing their own fields. If you live near power lines, that will do it. Actually, part of our mother company, Sheets Contracting, has a whole division based on mitigating the effects of EMF when it comes to wiring protocol. So we'll wire homes in a manner that actually cancels out EMF from both external and what could be created internally within the home. And so we meet with the client, see what their needs are, and then design the home electrically speaking around that. And it's really helped out a lot of people, especially those who are very, very sensitive to EMF. So.
All right, man. So let's get to these questions.
Yeah. What do you got?
So in general, for people that want to adopt EV, where can they charge? Like, where can they go? Can they just go to any charger, or do they have to go to a specific charger for the car, like a Chevy Bolt? Like, do they have to go to a Chevy Bolt specific charger, or can they charge at a? I mean, I feel like it's common sense. You can't just go to a Tesla branded charger, right, to charge a Chevy Bolt.
Yeah, it's a two-sided coin. If you have a Tesla, you can go anywhere. You'll get, as long as you have the S or the X, you do get, I believe, free lifetime charging even today. With the Model 3, they don't offer that. I think you get 1,000 or 2,000 miles, depending on when you bought it, at the Tesla labeled superchargers that are dotted throughout the United States and elsewhere. If you are not a Tesla car, no matter what you do, you can't use those Tesla superchargers. Even if you wanted to pay, you couldn't do it. In fact, you can't even pay right there. There's no pay to play at the superchargers. You will just receive a bill from Tesla. Let's say you take your Model 3 to the Tesla supercharger. You've already exhausted your 1,000 or 2,000 mile allotments, and you want to charge your car because you're on a road trip. You would charge it, but you'll just get a bill. I think you get a bill in the mail, or you have a credit card on file. They just charge it like you would at the gas pump. Now, when it comes to every other car out there, they use a connector called a J1772, which is it's a certain pin configuration that is not like Tesla's. Tesla's a 3-pin, I guess, 4-pin configuration, 4 or 5-pin. Excuse me, I have to look at it again.
It's different. It's different though, right?
It's different, yeah. And Tesla's is proprietary, whereas everybody else uses the same one. So theirs is is universal. And you do get an adapter with the Tesla that adapts the Tesla proprietary end cap to the J1772. So you could, so this answers to the question is, if I own a Tesla, can I charge anywhere there's a charging station? And the answer is yes, you can. You just have to use the adapter. And for every other car that's out there, they use that J connector I talked about. And so they charge virtually anywhere that is not a Tesla supercharger station. Now, if you just pull up to the station and it's not free, which 99% of them are not, you're going to have to pay. So typically you have to have an account with ChargePoint, and I use that name because that's the most common. And they've saturated the market, and they've done a great job. Their chargers are solid and they're well built. Those chargers, you have to have an account with them, and then you would pull up and et cetera. And you plug in where you are. I think that's like usually an ID code that you would plug. I'm at station 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, start, and it will charge your car, and away you go. And those typically charge at a max rate of 32 amps, typically.
What does that mean? Change. What does that mean for a fifth grader?
Oh, well, at 32 amps, it's going to be the lowest level charge. Well, it's no problem. I'll wait till the Corvette goes by. That wasn't an EV. See, there you go. It's a problem already. But it's still level 2 charging. It's 240 volt. It's still level 2, but the amperage is decreased. The reason for that is a lot of cars can't accommodate higher levels of charging. They're not set up for it. So ChargePoint and other public use charging stations have decreased their output for a few reasons. One, because they probably have more stations per location, because there's only so much power available from the grid, or B, because the cars by and large can only handle so much. So if you have a Tesla and you're looking for a faster charge, you're probably not going to find it at a non-Tesla supercharger, just a standard garden variety charger on the road. And they're literally everywhere. You can get the ChargePoint app. There are apps for your phone for locations. Yeah, for Android or iOS, where you could just enter, EV charging stations near me. And I'm not kidding. If you're in a city, there are more chargers than you can shake a stick at. They're everywhere. So I mean, there's money to be made from them. So, and Target, of course, does it. The one that I saw yesterday, you had to pay to use, but for a while they were doing it for free because they were realizing that customers were staying inside the store longer and spending more money when they were charging their car. So they were charging their car for free, but spending on average like $30 to $40 more money. So.
Is it expensive to charge? Like, what's the average? Like cost per mile, or I don't know how it goes.
Well, most people report they add about $20 a month to their electric bill. That's about.
Are you talking about from home?
From home, that's correct. Yeah, when you're out, it's about $3 or $4.
For a full charge.
Yep, for most people. Yeah. Again, it depends on how low you are in the car and et cetera, et cetera. But typically right? About $3 to $4.
Would you say it's cheaper though to charge at home?
Oh yeah, because you're paying the direct rates. And if you charge in the middle of the night with what we call a time of use meter, you're paying, I think it's around 11 or 12 cents a kilowatt hour right here in Southern California for Edison. I'm not sure about San Diego Gas and Electric customers, but for SCE customers, it's significantly less. So charge from, off-peak hours, like 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. Oh, way cheaper.
What about for businesses? I feel like businesses might be a little skeptical of why they should own a EV charging station in their business, or even real estate people, like commercial real estate, or I don't know, apartment complexes. Like why should they have one?
Well, I think you've got this age-old problem, right? And it's called ROI, and it's return on investment, and that's one of them. Even if you can show people the numbers. So let's walk down that path for a second. Both in business as well as in apartment complex, which is essentially a business. Anything that generates revenue for you is going to be that way. So why would, Mrs. Smith, who owns an apartment complex, why it's a 50-unit complex, why would she want to put in chargers? I mean, so you got to, why? You live in an apartment. Why? Why would she want to do that for the apartment? Why?
To have people charge their car. Like if they own an EV, right?
Okay. Does she really? I mean, I'm not trying to be dark and evil and mean,
No, yeah.
but does she really care about you? I'm
I mean,
just
it's like,
saying it,
yeah.
right? She doesn't really care because what is it going to benefit her? Now, you're right. There probably are some business owners out there that are and apartment owners that are like, hey, you know what? I want to do right by my people. It's a good idea for whatever justification they find. But by and large, this is an investment for them. And if that apartment complex is costing them between their mortgage, their taxes, their maintenance, their upkeep, their repairs, all of that is costing them, let's say, $50,000 a month, and they're only getting back 48,000 a month or 51,000 a month at best. Why would they invest in this? Why? Let's say they're making back 75 or $80,000 a year, a month. Okay, now they're a net gain on that complex of 25 to 30 grand a month. Great, great. Okay, why would I put the EVR? Why? They have to see that there's a return on that investment. And we can show them that. There's a huge return on investment. The number one thing they get that's a positive return on investment is the type of clientele you're going to get in your apartment complex. People want to charge their cars, and by and large, apartment complexes don't have EV chargers. So your higher paying apartment occupants are going to be willing to pay a higher fee for a place if they can get EV charging, even if they have to pay for the charging, the fact that they can just get it. So Mrs. Smith, again, in our little makeup story here, she has to be able to charge more for her apartment complex, $100, $200 more, whatever it is a month per unit, to justify the expense, because the upfront cost is not cheap. It's expensive.
Right.
So, I mean, she's probably going to start somewhere around $10,000 to get a pay station there. A non-pay station is
Is that the cheapest one?
$800.
Is that
Yeah,
like the cheapest for?
Yeah, because to get it, because you got to set up Wi-Fi. You have to set up, you have to wire it to the building. You have to make sure there's sufficient power in the building. You got to locate it. You have to get permits by the city because you're going to be consuming a parking space that's EV only. And in most apartment complexes, what is the really, really one thing they're short on?
Parking space.
Parking.
Right.
Especially in Southern California, where you've got 3 families living in 1 2-bedroom apartment. So, no, and again, I don't know if those people are going to have an EV or not. They may not. That's not up to me. But why would she want to invest all of this revenue? Some people might call it capital, reinvesting the revenue into this facility if she's only going to be getting back a net zero. So she has to be able to charge more. So that's one reason why they wouldn't do it. It's also on the flip side of that one reason why they would do it, because they see it as a positive investment in both the kind of, for lack of a better word, clientele she's going to get. Because typically EV owners, by and large, are the type of customers, clients, occupants you want in your building. They're typically more prudent. They typically, historically speaking, have better paying jobs that are more consistent.
I was about to say, yeah.
And so those, I'm saying demographically, that's what we find is the case. Reflect, this isn't my opinion. This is what we have as data. So it doesn't mean others can't own. It's none of that. It just means this is typically the data that shows that. So, and they go across all kind of socioeconomic people, and they run across every gamut of race, nationality, and point of origin. So you've got all kinds of that enter in. It's not, some blank middle class, yada, yada, yada. It's everybody, but it's the type of individual they are that actually want to buy and invest in an EV. And those are the kind of people that are typically more responsible. Quite honestly, they're the kind of people that see a piece of trash, they pick it up and throw it away. Right. They're more aware of the world around them. They're going to treat the apartment with better respect, historically speaking. So that's one. A business owner you brought up, why would they want to do it or not do it? Again, it's a huge upfront cost. Now, notwithstanding today's crisis of COVID-19, where businesses are really feeling a huge impact on the bottom line, but let's take standard life. We've had a lot of business owners who do want to do it. But again, that upfront cost that has to be amortized over the next 10 years, because it is a big cost. it can be anywhere from, again, $10,000 on the low side to a bid we just recently did for a large corporation that makes energy drinks, remain unnamed this time, to about $350,000. So it would be and to them, they weren't even doing pay to play. They were doing it for the benefit of their employees, because the employees were asking for this stuff. They were going to be they weren't even going to see an ROI on this. They were literally going to do this out of the goodness of their heart, and because it helps retain better employees. So really, that's, for a business, and I recommend this to business owners a lot of times, it's more important that you give your employees for retainment of the proper, good, right, beneficial, etc., producing employees. Hey, if you want a charging station, here's a charging station, man. That makes you happy, I'm in. And it becomes a write-off for the business owner, right? It's a business expense. So how that works tax-wise, whether it's income to the people using it, I don't know. That's beyond my expertise. But I do know that it becomes a write-off for them, which is significant. Both the ongoing usage of the electricity, as well as any infrastructure changes, as well as installing the chargers to begin with. So those things are really going to augment a business and set it apart. Because if you have an employee, it could be something as silly as this. Here's a case in point. My parents were shopping for a house in Northern California 49 years ago. They looked at one area of town in San Jose called Seven Trees. At the time, it wasn't a rough area. And South San Jose, which was a newer developing area. Not as many kids, not as many families. They went to this, and the houses were literally the same price. They went to the Seven Trees house, and just because my dad pulled on the track that closes the shower door track, the door, he pulled it and it bumped off its hinges. Because of that one reason, they didn't buy the house in Seven Trees. They bought the newer development in San Jose, which they didn't like as much. But it was for that one little simple thing. And my dad's a handy guy, he's a contractor. He could have fixed it in a heartbeat. But that one thing made him go, I don't know. And now Seven Trees is a total ghetto. It just is. It's a rough side of town. And the other part, and South San Jose isn't. It's much cleaner. And so my point is that literally was nothing. It was $10 to fix that part. And in the same way, it can be that one little thing where an employee is looking between two companies. Both of them offer the same benefits. Both of them offer similar pay. But the one company now has EV charging, they may go there. Heck, they might even be getting a lower wage, but just for the mere convenience that they have a charging station at work, they might go there, especially if they live at a place like an apartment or a condo complex that they can't charge. They're going to pick up the business that actually has charging available. So
hotels, right?
Hotels are another great resource. Actually, about 2 years ago, we had just gotten our Tesla. We were driving to a hotel. I literally stayed at the hotel I stayed at. It was a Red Roof Inn. I don't know if it's a hotel or motel. I stayed there because they had free Tesla charging. So, it's a lot of times people do shop for hotels based on that and that alone.
Right.
Yeah, I do.
So there is that requirement from a consumer, right? Like when they're about to choose something, like they look for those things. At least from a EV owner's perspective, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna go to the cleaners, for example. I don't know, but
That's right.
Do you think that they choose that cleaners with a EV charging station, opposed to like a good cleaners?
Right.
Quality cleaners.
Well, they might choose the more ghetto cleaner, right?
Yeah.
Just because they have a charging station. So that could happen. It very well could happen. What's the difference between a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-star hotel? Really, the difference is not because one hotel is better than or bigger than the other one, or it's the amenities it offers. That's what makes a hotel have its stars, right? And so, and typically it's a full-size gym, and there's all kinds of other things, concierge, etc. So those things differentiate the stars of hotels. And so in the same way, we can look at that in a business. Do you want to be a a 1-star, 2-star, 3. Just by having EV charging, that might actually put this virtual star on your business that people would want to come and visit. And it would behoove, in a lot of ways, you've got these mini malls that pop up, right? Where there's a Starbucks, a Z Pizza, Vaughn's, CVS, a couple of little mini stores in there. And people will go to these places and frequent them. They'll get their Starbucks, and then they'll go to the next place and get whatever they need. They'll go to 3 or 4 restaurants. If the person who owns that property says, hey, let's put in 4 charging stations, people are probably going to want to come there a whole lot more. And they're going to stay a whole lot longer in each of those places and spend a whole lot more money.
Right.
So it would behoove those individual shop owners who are leasing their spaces to go to their owner, their landlord agency, and say, hey, let's put an EV charging here. We're going to be drawing more customers. We need more customers to stay in business. We have better paying customers. We can pay a higher rent, etc. So,
What about prices for just installing at a house? What's the average price to install level 1 or level 2, level 3? Well, level
on
2
a
is only
house or a
house.
business?
House.
Okay, yeah. Well, level 1 is it's basic. What we call an Edison plug, the smiley face plugs, right? The 2 vertical and the 1 little ground, and that it takes whatever 4 days to charge your car. And some houses can't even accommodate it. It'll trip the breaker because it just is trying to draw too much current. So everybody virtually has level 1 charging. Level 2 charging is essentially 240 volt, meaning you have 2 phases coming into it. And that ranges anywhere from 20 amps to 100 amp circuit typically. I have yet to see one over 100 amps, although they may be out there somewhere. And now those have been decreased from 100 amps down to a 60 amp maximum circuit by Tesla. So anywhere from 20 to 60. And there aren't many cars, if any, on the market that will warrant more than that out of a residential application. Those prices range, and I always shudder to give them because, people only hear the first number, right? When you say a range from 350 to 10,000, all they hear is 350. So, but they do. They range anywhere from 350 on the inexpensive side,
right,
all the way up to. We've done a few jobs that are $10,000 and $15,000 because all of a sudden their panel wasn't right. We had to upgrade their panel. Well, then they found out their wires were overhead over the pool, so we had to move the wires underground and go around the pool. So these are rare jobs.
Yeah.
But they do happen.
But so there's not like a fixed cost, right? You got to look at.
Well, there is
relative details.
Most of the time it is fixed, but we always encourage you to call. Well, it's literally a 5-minute phone call with Jennifer. It's typically who people are going to be speaking with, and they'll talk with Jennifer. She'll get all the details from them. It takes literally 3 to 5 minutes, and based on that, we'll be able to give them a price pretty quickly and get them on the schedule within days.
What's a better charger? Is it like ChargePoint? I know you mentioned it earlier. ChargePoint. What's the other one?
Well, you've got some of the 3 major players, at least in the U.S., are going to be ChargePoint, Juicebox, Clipper Creek, Sun Country is the 4th one. And, they're all really similar. They offer different amenities. There's one more that's skipping my mind right now. It starts with an M. That's a pretty good charger. They're all really good. I've seen each of them fail on occasion, but not all that much. The Juicebox ones, I think, have a Wi-Fi interface. Oh, Aero Environment has a good one, spelled A-E-R-O, Aero Environment. They were one of the first ones to come out with a whole Wi-Fi adaptation a few years ago. So there are quite a few that are on the market, and I swear some of them are made in the same factory. They look the same, they touch the same, they feel the same. They just have a different placard on the front, but I'm sure they're not, but it seems like they are.
Yeah.
But by and large, they're great. They're all really solid chargers. We have not had any one that has been any more problematic than another one.
All the same. So it's just brand.
For the most part, yeah. I really like the Juicebox. I think they're pretty bulletproof. The ChargePoint's been really good. Clipper Creeks have been really good. So we haven't had any problems with those at all. What you're going to want to make sure of when you call is make sure that we know the configuration that you bought. So you can buy them with different plugs on the end. A NEMA 650, which is a 3-prong application, still 50 amp. A NEMA 1450, which is a 4-prong application, still 50 amp. A 630, a 1030, a 6. We need to know which application, which unit you purchased so that we can give it the proper plug when we show up.
What about recommendations? Do you recommend someone a certain level charging at their house?
Well, we
Like
like to
either,
give them the maximum we can. We try to give them the max. We run load calculations on every job we do to make sure they're not going to exceed that. And we really do our best to give them the maximum available current.
right.
Or the fastest charge, if you want to put it in that lingo. And they don't always have to use it. We want to make sure it's available to them so that they're okay. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, I'll be charging in the middle of the night when my air conditioner's not on or whatever. The house is not on. So even though it exceeds my overall current available on the house, it doesn't matter. I'll be careful. I'm shaking my head no. Don't do it. You can't do it. We won't do it. Because you might move out, you might move out and the next guy moves in and he doesn't have your same philosophy on life. He wants to cook a turkey, run the pool, have all the fans running, the air conditioning, and charge the car at the same time because it makes him feel good.
Right, different lifestyle, right?
Yeah, so we can't create an unsafe situation. So we're not going to do that. We're going to make sure it still continues and maintains a high level of safety. You know, our name is on the line, and your home and your lives are on the line. So we only want to do what's going to be prudent in the long run.
All right, man. And to wrap it up, like, do you recommend people to do it themselves to install an EV charger at their home?
Well, I'm
Like,
not
do you feel like-
laughing in cruelty. You know, the answer that I assume the question was already answered within the question, right? But you can. I'm not going to say you can't do it. You can also perform surgery on yourself. Would you do that yourself? So no, I mean, most people would remove their own splinter. Some people might even stitch up a wound in the outback, but they wouldn't do ACL surgery. So in a lot of ways, I'm not trying to compare by any means what we do to what a surgeon needs for ACL surgery. But what we do is a little bit invasive, and you are putting your hands in a live panel. That can kill you. You are doing things that can potentially burn down. I have so many burned and melted parts that we save at the office. I can't save them all, but 15% of our work is actually redoing work that has been done by other people, either by their contractors, handymen, or handy people, or the homeowners themselves. And so we get called out because they used the wrong parts. They used inferior. It might still be a NEMA 1450, but it's an inferior NEMA 1450. We've talked about that on previous shows, how the Hubble and some of the other brands are more industrial rated. So, but they don't know that, and they're going to go shop at Home Depot for the most part, or Lowe's. No dissing on them. They don't carry the industrial parts. They're called Home Depot. They're not called Industrial Depot. So they typically aren't going to be getting the industrial parts you need for this. We've seen one of the biggest mistakes made is a lot of guys will install number 8 wire. Now, I know to non-electrical people that may sound like just whatever. The code says it's okay, it's okay. Well, the code does say number 8 wire is good for 50 amps, but it's a certain kind of wire. It's not the wire that goes in what we call a Romex jacket, that kind that comes in a pre-made sleeve. Or also Romex is a trade name for NM, non-metallic cable. And so a lot of times we've seen guys use number 8 wire, and it's only good for 40 amps. And so, but they've used it for 50 amp circuits, and we've seen it melt down before.
Right.
Not a good idea.
Makes sense, so.
Yeah. So it's just knowing what to do. It really isn't brain surgery or ACL surgery, but you do have to know. And
right.
Yes, a person could do it on their own. Really, for a few $100, you could have it done correctly.
Yeah,
and that includes all the parts. So why would you bother? It's a luxury. You know, it never ceases to amaze me. Alcohol, right? You can go out and buy a 6-pack of beer for $6, $7, pretty good beer, but you'll go out and pay $10 plus a tip to have somebody serve you one beer. How in the world are you whining about a professional coming to your house doing something? You'll pay for a glass of wine, whatever the case is. You could pour that yourself at home in 3 seconds. I'm not even talking about cooking a meal, because cooking a meal takes effort, time, preparation, etc. And it maybe cost you $30, $40, and you can make it at home for $6 or $7. That at least makes some kind of sense because you've got people making it, the infrastructure of the building, workers' comp, all that. But an alcoholic beverage, this is the easiest thing in the world to do on your own, and yet people pay for it. Manicures, pedicures, right? Super easy to do yourself at home. People get them done every day. But because they're willing to pay for the service, why, pray tell, wouldn't someone be willing to pay for a professional? Not even me. It could be somebody else. A professional to come out and do it right and not burn your house down. I've never understood it. I've
gotta be EV Pros though.
Well,
people are gonna get an installation. If people are gonna get an installation, they gotta go to EV Pros.
That's right.
Speedy.
Well, yeah, we've done what? Well, we're the longest tenured in the country for Tesla. We've done well over 5,000 installations. Our track record speaks for itself. And we've been around for the better part of 35 years as the mother company and the spawning of EV Pros. So you have that as a history behind it, and if that's what you're looking for a quality install at a reasonable rate to use only top quality parts and materials. It's the right place to go, and it's a long-term relationship. Right. We've had 3 installations this last week, even though Tesla wasn't even selling cars, that were repeat clients that moved to new homes. There is no greater sensation than a client that calls 3 years later and says, "Hey, you did our first house, come do our next one." And that happens all the time to us. They enjoy what they got. They love the service they had. We move forward together.